Good afternoon and welcome back, ladies, gents and Pikachus. Welcome back to another analysis and breakdown of the Quran of the Muslims. Yes, we'll be going through this thing again, verse by verse, breaking it into factual, logical statements in English so that we can understand who or what is Allah, what does he mean by the contents of his book here, and more importantly for us as non-believers, how does this impact our lives in the world today? So before I get started, as I always do, I'm going to tell you now, if you wish to fact check me or you have any questions or doubts as to the things that I'm about to say now, first buy, translate and read one of these in Arabic only Quran, not an English one or Quran.com, because they are wrong, false doctrines. They do not contain the words of Allah, because Allah tells us himself he only speaks in Arabic, and any other language or interpretation or any other ideas that you may have of understanding this book are wrong and make you an infidel. So, buy, translate and read one of these if you wish to fact check me, and then you will recognise everything I'm about to say now is 100% true of Allah's word and what Muslims believe today. So let's get started. What I thought might be interesting to do is to break away from our current reading of AL-NIISA, the Book of Women, or rather how you should mistreat women if you're a man in Islam, and I thought let's go back in time and read Satan's word. That's what Allah says this English Quran is. This is the work of Satan according to Allah in his Arabic Quran. So I thought let's see what Satan has to say on Allah's word if we go back to the cow, the heifer, Al-Baqarah. Now, stay with me here. Once I've read you a little bit of this, you'll understand why we've gone back to this, and it is very important to know. So, we're going to start with the cow, verse 47. This is after the Adam and Eve bit, so not much has had a chance to happen. We haven't met Moses, we haven't met Abraham, Jacob, we haven't met anyone yet. We've literally had Adam and Eve, and then we're like 10, 15 verses past of that. So, 47. O children of Israel, call to mind the special favour which I have bestowed upon you, that I, Allah, preferred you to all peoples. Now you get it. So, why I'm going through this is because a lot of Muslims have been writing me nasty, racist, hateful, hypocritical, dishonest comments because they are so angry that I should be reading their Arabic Quran. How dare I? I'm not even a Muslim. I'm just an infidel and an evil Jew. Of course, I'm not allowed to read it. Only I am allowed to read it because actually the company that sold me this sells this to mosques in my country, and we allow you to operate your mosques and read this book in your mosques in our country, which belongs to us, under our rules. So that means under our rules, I'm allowed to read your book. And that's why I'm reading you now the bit about O children of Israel, which, by the way, is just after Adam and Eve. So O children of Israel shouldn't yet exist because we haven't seen the tribe of Judah, we haven't seen Israel, we haven't seen Moses, we haven't seen any of that stuff yet. There's no Torah, there's no Moses, there's no Israelites leaving Egypt, there's no setting up of Israel, there's none of that yet. But for some reason, Allah, right at the beginning of the book, feels it's necessary to say, O children of Israel, call to mind the special favour which I, Allah, bestowed upon you, and that I preferred you to all others. So, why is Allah saying this? Why is Allah speaking directly to the children of Israel, now in the current day through his book, even though at this point in the book, Israel weren't yet created? Maybe this is an indication that Allah's book was written far later than he claims, and actually by the time this was being written, it wasn't the divine word of Allah, it is the undivine word of Muhammad. And Muhammad lived in the time when the Jews were already a big kingdom and there was loads of them, and there wasn't so many Muslims. So I think what's happening here is Muhammad, not Allah, Muhammad is saying, O children of Israel, call to mind the special favour which I bestowed upon you, and that I preferred you to all others, because Muhammad, in his ignorance and stupidity, thinks this is what the Torah says. But it's not what the Torah says. The Torah says the Gentiles are the ones that get the grace of God. Israel are not his favoured people. The Gentiles are his favoured people. Israel are his children, who are the children of Israel, which is why he correctly calls them the children of Israel. But he incorrectly says God has given them special favour. That's not right at all. And the reason is this. God's special favour is the Gospels and his law and his grace and mercy, not Allah's actual grace and mercy and love, which they don't have to do anything for. And even if they fall into sin and they're horrible and evil, He still loves them. He's going to punish them because they deserve punishment. But he's still going to love them, and he's not going to burn them forever. They're going to have a chance, even in the depths of hell, to repent and pray to Jesus and come back to not being sinful. So that's the special favour that he's talking about, which is noted in the Torah and also the Gospels. It doesn't apply only to the Jews of Israel. It applies to everyone, primarily the Gentiles, because if you think about it, Israel already knew this through the Torah, which was written way before this was and already existed by the point that Muhammad wrote this. That's why, even though he's talking about Adam and Eve, he's forgotten. This or the Torah weren't around at that point. So either what I'm saying is true, and Muhammad wrote this in error because he was too dumb and ignorant to know that this wasn't a thing at the time of Adam and Eve, or he just forgot. Either way, he's wrong. So we carry on from there. 49. And remember, so now Muhammad is telling us, or he's telling the reader, and remember, because you weren't there, so I'm going to put this in your head. I'm trying to suggest to you with a psychological tactic, which, by the way, is stolen from the Jesuit order. They're the only people at this point in history who knew how to use psychology and manipulation to plant things in your head which weren't previously there. That's the work of Satan. So we get more compelling evidence that Allah and Muhammad and Satan are like a triune evil trinity. And remember, we delivered you from the people of Pharaoh. I could have sworn it was Moses that delivered the people of Pharaoh from Allah. That's what's going to happen in the future of this book. We haven't got there yet. So once again, Muhammad and Allah are using a canvas of lies to set you up with a big lie in future. And this is exactly what Satan does as well. Satan uses a canvas which he lets you have in your mind that he can then paint a lie on later on. And you can go, oh yeah, I recognise these people. So nothing to see here. It gets past the intricate details that you might have and the questions about the lies. It suggests to you that it's true. As does saying, remember? Remember that happened even though you weren't there? And you definitely weren't there because you're alive now. That's why he's saying that. Then he finishes off by saying, they set you hard tasks and chastisement, slaughtered your sons and let the womenfolk live. That's not what they did at all. He's talking about the Egyptians. The Egyptians did slaughter your sons, but they didn't let the womenfolk live. They had the womenfolk as slaves, and if the womenfolk didn't agree to everything they did, they were killed as well. Therein was a tremendous trial from your Lord. So we're supposed to think, hang on a minute, I thought Allah is the Lord. But you just said it was the Egyptians, who you later claim aren't under Allah. That's why they got destroyed. They were pagans. So what are we supposed to think about this? It's a very confusing line. What I think we're supposed to think is, we, Allah and the angels, delivered you from the Pharaoh. They're the ones that get all the blame for doing all the evil stuff, despite the fact that they were under the command of Allah. Therein was a tremendous trial from your Lord. So it's Allah testing them. That's what that means. All this stuff that's getting blamed on the Egyptians is Allah testing the Israelites, the children of Israel. And it hasn't even happened yet. So we're setting this up for later. And the reason I'm bringing this to you, ladies, gents and Pikachus, is following my Allah is Satan video, which I think gives pretty conclusive evidence and damning evidence that Allah and Satan are one, which is what I think. But this is the kind of reason why. Satan does this. Satan does terrible evils on humanity in spite and rage and grievance because he hates God, but he can't hurt God, so he hurts God's children. Then he blames it on them. He will never take responsibility for the things he does. That's what Allah's doing here. The Pharaoh and the Egyptians, they were bad to you Israelites, remember that? But it was only a test from your Lord. You know, it was only a test. Doesn't really matter, even though the Egyptians did it. Line 50. And remember, we divided the sea for you and saved you when we drowned Pharaoh's people within your very sight. Now this is interesting, because when we get to this bit in the book, the Pharaoh and the Egyptians are taking the advice and the guidance of Allah. So if Allah is now saying he killed the Egyptians and drowned the Pharaoh's people so that he could save the Israelites, even though the first thing he does when the Israelites escape is say, I hate you filthy evil Jew dogs, I'm going to kill you all later in a big war. That's my prophecy. So he's clearly lying on one of those occasions. But what is interesting to me here is saying, remember, because you weren't there. Remember, even though you weren't there, we divided the sea and saved you by killing the Pharaoh's people. Now, if the Pharaoh's people were following your advice, O Allah, which they definitely were in your own words, that makes a previous part of your book wrong, doesn't it? Because let's read from the earlier bit where you said, my guidance is true and proper, and those who accept my faith and follow my guidance will prosper and be led not into sin. So the Pharaoh and the Egyptians were following everything you said. They enslaved the Israelites because you said so. They kept punishing them. They wouldn't listen to Moses because you said so. God punished them with 7 plagues, and they still really were reluctant because you didn't want them to do it. Even though they knew that their soldiers shouldn't be chasing the Israelites that God had released from captivity, you told them to send their Egyptian troops. You didn't send your angels. You sent Egyptian heavily armoured troops off into the sea to kill the Israelites, and then they got drowned via Moses and God. And that was all your advice, Allah, that caused that. So you directly caused all that misfortune and death and destruction and the decline of Egypt through your guidance. And the only people that didn't take your guidance were those Israelites that escaped and set up Israel and were really happy and are now a peaceful, triumphant kingdom, much better than any of the Islamic ones, who are constantly trying to kill them and failing. So what we can tell from this, O Allah, O wise and powerful and merciful one, you told a lie there, didn't you? You said everyone who follows your guidance will do well, and your guidance is always true and doesn't bring sin. Only the people who follow it end up dead and in poverty and are never able to recover, and their whole kingdom turns to dust, like the Egyptians. The old Egyptian kingdom used to be huge. It used to be the most powerful kingdom on earth. Then you turned up and wrecked it, and now they're not. They're poor. But this is not the only example of Allah telling a big fat lie, i.e. the same way that Satan does. Another lie that he tells a little bit further on, continuing in the Adam and Eve story, is he surrounds Adam with his angels, as we went through last time, and he says, Adam, I can teach you the secret hidden things of heaven and earth. The hidden secrets of heaven and earth will be yours, Adam. All you got to do is worship me, follow me, do what I say, accept my guidance. And you'll be higher than the angels. You'll be truth, beauty, courage, and wisdom. That's the promise that Allah makes to Adam while he's in the state of felicity in the Garden of Eden. But does that promise come out? Well, is Adam the king of heaven right now? Or is Adam long dead on earth? Of course, he's long dead on earth, so it's another lie that Allah tells. Allah is a big liar, just like Satan. And the two are a oneness. And I think we can tell that now, because had Adam not listened to Allah, if he just said, screw you, Allah, I don't want to listen to your rubbish advice. I'm much more happy in the state of felicity that I already have before you turn up. So you didn't give that to me. God gave that to me when he created me in his palm with Eve and made us equal. You wrecked it, Allah, with your bad guidance. And then you got thrown out as well. And while we're on the subject of the Garden of Eden, isn't it really weird how the book of the Quran of the Muslims begins in the Garden of Eden? The paradise garden is Eden, right? The one in heaven. That's where they start off with. Everything, and he even says it's a state of felicity when they're there. So everyone who's in Eden, even Satan and Allah at this point, because they're there, they get this state of felicity. Everyone gets free food, free water, free companionship, free joy, the love of God. Everyone's happy, the state of felicity, yay! Until Allah and his lies and his bad guidance ruins it for virtually everyone who's named in the story. Then they drop to earth, Satan leads them down, with his, it's either Allah wearing a disguise or it's Allah's split personality, the other half of which is Satan, because who else is going to do it? Adam is talking to Allah. Why would Satan interject for Allah? Are we saying that Satan is not controlled by Allah, even though Allah claims he controls everything that ever lives or doesn't live? Allah specifically says, I ordain everyone's path from birth through to death, and I write everything. Nothing exists outside of my domain. That's what he says. So that means Satan as well then. That's what he means. Allah creates Satan, writes Satan's path, directs and guides Satan. Satan's working for Allah. In his own words. But if he's not, then it means that Allah's not as powerful as Satan. So Satan's controlling Allah then. So it doesn't matter which way you look at it. The reason they're both big liars, they both hate humanity, and they both get kicked out of Eden, the paradise garden of God, is because of the guidance of Allah being really bad, or if Allah is getting guided by Satan, it's exactly the same. It's lies, it's deceit, it's manipulation, it's violent, and it ends the state of felicity for them, and they get chucked out on their backsides, and then they have to be on earth. Never can they return to the paradise garden of Eden. Which brings me to my final point. Allah's constantly going on about his paradise garden that he's going to create on the last day when he's killed all the infidels and non-believers. And Muslims mistakenly think, oh yeah, that's the Garden of Eden. His paradise is the Garden of Eden. It's like, no. Garden of Eden's already created, guys. That's where they start and they get kicked out of. And God says you can never come back. It's in heaven. It's already there. And by the way, it's a state of felicity, so that means you can't go there if you're a murderer, a rapist, or you've ever been violent to the people who live there. Which means Satan and Allah can never go back, because that's what they do and have done. They describe this in this book, Satan's copy of the Quran of the Muslims, and this book, Allah's Arabic-only copy of the Quran of the Muslims. So again, in Allah's own words. He knows he can't ever go back to the paradise garden, so why is he making Muslims believe that the paradise garden that he's talking about, where he's going to send them if they're obedient, is Eden, when it's not? So it's another lie. He's lying to his own Muslims. He lied to Adam. He lied to God. He lies to Satan. Or he lies about Satan to us. He lies to everyone. This guy is not to be trusted. We can see that from his own book. Anyone with a brain cell that works who reads the Quran in either English or Arabic, or both, is the way I've been doing it, they can tell this themselves. They don't need to be preached at by an imam. They don't need interpretations or translations or anything like that. It's simple. It's written for illiterate peasants. Of course it's simple. It doesn't take a genius. So we know Allah, Satan, oneness. The reason we know this, because lies, deceit, manipulation, king of deceivers, tricker of all trickers, that's what Allah calls himself. And he demonstrates in his own words, his actions are deceitful, he lies to just about everyone. His guidance is not good and true and doesn't lead you to good things. It leads you directly, without passing go and collecting £200, to the sinfulness of hell. That's where he's headed. And to make a very final point, in his own descriptions of his paradise garden, the final destination, which will be him at the end, he's there already when this place is created. Guess how you're going to get there, O Muslims? And this is exactly how he describes it. This is not me. This is the Quran of the Muslims in Arabic. This one, describing how you're going to get to Allah's paradise garden, which you think is Eden, but clearly is not Eden, because Eden's up there and already exists, and he's not allowed back in. How you're going to get there is you're going to flow like a river. Now tell me, O Muslims, have you ever seen a river flow upwards through the sky? No. Water flows down through the earth. So we know you're not going to the one up there. Allah's telling you you're not going to the one up there. When all the infidels and non-believers are dead, along with the indecent, arrogant, vain women who he hates because they didn't obey their husbands or him, he says you'll be flowing like a river down through the earth. And that's where his paradise garden is going to be, deep below the earth, in the cavern full of fire, where he is describing himself controlling you from the darkest depths. So, darkest depths, cavern filled with fire, flowing through the earth like a river to your final destination, which is not Eden, God's paradise garden. There's no state of felicity there. You're only going to be a companion of Satan. That's what he said. But Allah's there as well. So, Allah's telling you everything you need to know, O Muslims. He's lying to you. You can say I'm a racist because I have a flag of a foreign nation on my wall, all you like. You know deep in your heart, if you've read these books, the Quran and the Quran in English, and understood them properly, unless you're just completely brainwashed and you're unable to understand truth, you know. Whether you say a nasty thing about me, okay, fine, I'm a racist infidel, whatever you want to call me, cool, I'll accept it, I am. But it doesn't change the truth, because I didn't write this. Allah did. And Allah is not this. Allah is your Lord, according to you and him. So we know if we believe Allah, and I've been word for word telling you what Allah has said. In here, I've been reading it from the pages, word by word, and here, Allah himself is telling you, Muslims, despite the fact that you don't think you're an infidel, you think you're going to the paradise garden in Eden. You're not. Because Eden is up there and he's not allowed back in. He got thrown out at the beginning and never mentions it again. You're going, flowing like a river down through the earth to the cave filled with fire, to Allah's paradise garden, which is not Eden, which sounds like a horrific place filled with death and pain and tortures and grief. And guess who is there already, along with Allah? Satan. That's what you're going to get for your faithful obedience to this guy, Allah. So cool. Abuse me all you like. Call me a racist, Zionist, evil Jew, Christian, colonizer, whatever. Even though it's complete ignorance and hypocrisy for you to do that, because me having all these different flags on the wall, it's funny you only pick out this one for criticism. That makes you a racist, doesn't it? I've got Japan there. I've got England. I've got the United States and the United Kingdom here. That yellow one is China. Then I've got the United Nations up there. I've got Belgium, France, Germany, Morocco. I did have Algeria and Saudi Arabia, but they came down. Not because I'm racist against them, but I can't support the things their government are doing. So I'm obviously not a racist because I got millions of flags everywhere and they're all friendly countries I am happy with. But you must be a racist, A, because you're picking out this out of all the flags behind me. The only one you see is this one. I hate those Jews. Because Allah has told you to. And in your fervour to obey your Lord Allah, you haven't even read his book properly and realised he's sending you down with Satan to hell to burn forever. And tricking you by telling you, oh, it's the same as the one in Eden. Even though he's telling you also you're flowing down like a river to get there and it will be your final destination. And that's the end of this video. Muslims, this is the last time I'm going to warn you. Read your books properly without the blinkers of brainwashing on like some kind of idiot zombie. You have free will and brains. You're not stupid. You can read. Don't read it in the interpretation your imams or your mum and dad or anyone else is telling you to, because trust me, and Allah agrees with this, in that final day, you are going to be speaking for your own actions. Your imams aren't going to be there to take the responsibility for you. They will not be punished for your actions. Your mum and dad won't be punished for your actions. I won't be punished. Israel won't be punished. Nothing and no one will be punished for your actions, O Muslim, apart from you. So carry on being racist and murderous and genocidal, speaking out of turn and lying and being a hypocrite, and guess what will happen to you? You'll flow like a river down towards your own death and torture forever with Satan and Allah. They're both down there according to these books. And you'll have no one to blame but yourself. Pray to Jesus. It's the only hope you've got. And that's the end of this video. So I hope you enjoyed that and you learnt something. God bless you all. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye now. And thus ends another day of Quran reading without lies. Islam Dies will return tomorrow at 7:15 AM. Until then, have a lovely, lovely evening. God bless you all. And I'll see you, beautiful people, in the next one. Bye now. Bye, 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 bye.